My brother stole my ex-wife 5 years ago, but my father's hidden letter shocked them. Okay, this is my confession. It's strange what you remember, not the big cinematic moments people assume define a life, but the textures, the weight of the air before everything collapses, the way a room smells, the sound of someone chewing when you've already emotionally left the table. I remember the roast chicken that night, overcooked, skin like ash, but she tried. I noticed that, her effort. I always noticed her effort, even when she was no longer doing it for me. We were sitting across from each other, elbows almost touching, but the space between us felt planetary. A slow drift had been happening for months, maybe years, but I kept pretending it was just weather, a phase, something we'd ride out like a winter storm. We'd have dinner, maybe argue over laundry or something mundane, and then she'd retreat to the couch and I'd pretend not to watch her scrolling through her phone for hours, eyes glazed over. She'd laugh sometimes at something I didn't say. A private joke I wasn't in on. That night she didn't laugh, she barely spoke. We ate in silence, forks scraping against ceramic. I asked about her day and she said, fine. I told her mine was long and she nodded. That was it. I don't even think we made eye contact. The TV was on in the background, a rerun of some sitcom with canned laughter that made the room feel more empty than if there'd been no noise at all. After dinner, she went to shower and I started doing the dishes. Hot water, sponge, scrape, rinse. I focused on the routine because it was the only thing that still felt solid. But then her phone buzzed on the counter. It was subtle, just one buzz, not the rapid flurry of messages, just one. I didn't mean to look. Or maybe I did, maybe something in me already knew. Oh, Daniel. That was it, just his name, no message preview, but I recognized the name instantly. I mean, of course I did. We shared a father, shared a bedroom growing up. He was my brother, my half-brother technically, but we never used the half. He lived 2 hours away in the city and we weren't close anymore, but we weren't enemies. At least I didn't think we were. I stared at the phone for a long time, the screen glowing and then going dark again, like a warning light fading in and out. I felt this slow burn behind my ribs, not rage, not yet. Just the beginning of something turning in me, like a tide changing without making a sound. She came out of the bathroom in a towel, steam trailing behind her like a ghost. Her skin pink from the heat, she looked clean. Reborn almost. I looked at her and thought, she doesn't love me anymore. It hit me all at once. Like someone had opened a trapdoor beneath my feet and I was already falling. Hey, I said, trying to sound normal. Daniel just texted you. She paused, just enough for me to notice, just enough for it to confirm something. Then she said, oh yeah, we've been catching up lately. Catching up, I repeated like a fool. She walked past me, not meeting my eyes, and said, yeah, is that weird? Yes, it was weird. It was King strange. But I just said, no, I guess not. She went into the bedroom, closed the door. I heard drawers opening, hangers sliding. I stood there in the kitchen, the water still running in the sink, my hands wrinkling like I was aging right there, second by second. The thing is, when something like that starts, you don't want to believe it. Your brain goes into denial mode. You start inventing reasons, rationalizing they're just talking. Maybe he's helping her with something, maybe I'm being paranoid. But there's a part of you, the part that isn't interested in lies, that just knows. I didn't confront her that night. I wish I had. Maybe something would have changed, or maybe not. Maybe it had already ended, and I was the only one still showing up to the set of a film that had wrapped months ago. Over the next few days, I noticed more signs. Whispers into the phone behind the closed bathroom door, her sudden need to go for walks alone to clear her head. And then one morning she didn't come home, not until 3 a.m. I was sitting on the couch when she walked in, hair messy, eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. I asked her where she'd been. Don't, she said, just that, one word like a brick to the chest. Are you serious? I asked, my voice cracking. Don't what? Don't ask why my wife disappears in the middle of the night. She sat down on the armrest across the room, wouldn't look at me, and then she said it, plain, sharp. I've been seeing Daniel. Time stopped, like actually stopped. My ears rang, the room tilted. I thought I'd throw up or pass out or both. I stood up, paced, sat back down. I laughed once, short and bitter. I said, you mean my brother Daniel? Oh, she nodded. How long? 3 months. 3 months. I walked to the sink. gripped the edge like it was the only thing keeping me from flying apart. "You could have left me," I said. "You didn't have to him." She didn't respond. That was worse than anything, her silence, her stillness. Like the crime had already been committed and she was just waiting for the sentencing. Later that night, I called him. I don't even know why. I just needed to hear his voice, to understand. He answered like nothing was wrong. "You didn't really think she was happy, did you?" he said. That one sentence destroyed any illusion I had left. It wasn't just betrayal, it was contempt. Like I was some pitiful background character in his story. I didn't scream, didn't punch anything. I just hung up. Sat on the floor of the living room for hours, my back against the wall, staring at the front door, wondering if walking through it would make this all go away. The next morning, I packed 2 bags, clothes, a toothbrush, a few books. I left my wedding ring on the counter beside the burnt-out candle she used to love. I didn't leave a note, I didn't tell anyone. I got in the car and drove, no destination, just away from them, from the house. From the version of myself that had believed love was enough. 16 hours, no music, just road. My hands gripped the wheels so hard my knuckles ached. Somewhere near the Colorado border, I pulled into a gas station. My reflection in the dirty bathroom mirror startled me. I looked like someone who'd survived a fire. That was the real moment, the true breaking. Not when she told me, not even when he laughed on the phone. It was me in that mirror, realizing I didn't recognize myself anymore. That everything I thought I was, husband, brother, son, had been burned to the ground. I washed my face, bought a bottle of water, walked back to the car. Well, I didn't cry. I didn't know where I was going, just kept driving west like there was something better on the other side of the country, or maybe just less of them. Less memory, less of myself. There's something about being in motion that fools you into thinking you're escaping. I remember the way the sun hit the desert floor like it was trying to cauterize me clean. Miles of nothing, flat, cracked earth, and those big stretches of highway where the radio doesn't work and the only voices are your own, bouncing around your skull like bees trapped in a jar. I landed in Nevada by accident. Town was so small it barely showed up on the GPS. A gas station, 2 diners, a bar with a broken neon sign that just said R, that was enough. I was out of gas, out of tears, and out of the will to keep pretending I had a destination. I found a room above a bait shop, smelled like wet carpet and old beer. Window didn't open, mattress had a sag like someone else's grief had lived there before mine. The landlord was a woman with a raspy smoker's voice who called me sweetheart and didn't ask questions. I liked that about her, that she didn't need a backstory, just the money once a week in cash. The first few days I barely moved, slept, or tried to, lay there watching the ceiling fan spin like a slow, indifferent god. Sometimes I'd hear people outside laughing, shouting, living. It felt foreign, like a movie playing in a language I'd forgotten. I didn't tell anyone where I was, not Emily, not my mom, definitely not him. I ghosted everyone, turned off my phone for a while. I didn't want sympathy, I wanted absence, emptiness, a place to vanish inside without being found. Eventually, I got a job at a mechanic's garage run by a guy named Ray. Big guy, long beard, looked like he'd been carved out of an oil drum. He didn't care about my resume. He just said, "You know your way around a carburetor." I nodded. He handed me a pair of gloves, that was it. We didn't talk much. He'd hum while he worked, mostly old country songs that cracked like gravel in his throat. There was something comforting about the way he moved, methodical, unhurried, like nothing could surprise him anymore. Like whatever life had thrown at him, he'd already swallowed it whole. I kept to myself. I wasn't trying to make friends. I wasn't trying to make anything. I just needed the noise of tools, the ache in my hands at the end of the day, something real, something physical. There's a strange peace in grease and rust, things that don't pretend to be more than what they are. But nights were brutal. That's when the ghosts came, not in the sheets or the closet, just in my mind. In flashes, her face lit by candlelight on our anniversary, smiling in a way I used to believe meant forever. Daniel laughing at one of my dumb jokes back when we were still brothers. My father sitting in his armchair, eyes always on the horizon, like he was waiting for something he could never name. I'd drink just enough to soften the edges. Not drunk, not blackout, just blurred, just enough to forget the texture of her skin. The weight of his betrayal, just enough to trick myself into sleeping for a few hours. Sometimes I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with my heart pounding like a starter engine stuck in gear. Panic with no face. Just the overwhelming sense that I'd lost something I'd never get back. Not just her, not just him, me, some vital part of me had gone silent. I started writing again, not anything good, not the kind of writing you show people, just fragments, half-thoughts, anger scrawled across coffee-stained pages. I hope you rot on one line, why wasn't I enough on the next, then nothing but blank space. I didn't talk to my father. Emily said he was declining, that the cancer had come back, that he was tired all the time and mostly just watched the birds outside his window. I should have called, I should have gone back, but I couldn't. It felt like he was part of that old world, and I didn't belong there anymore. I was the ghost now, the estranged son who disappeared when things got ugly. Some part of me thought they all knew, that maybe it wasn't just Daniel and her, that maybe the whole family watched it happen and just let it, or maybe they didn't know but wouldn't have stopped it anyway. That was the worst part, the stories I told myself in the quiet to make the betrayal make sense. I needed a villain, I needed it not to be my fault. But deep down there was this gnawing voice. The one that said, maybe you weren't lovable, maybe you were too quiet, too tired, too safe. Maybe she left because you stopped looking at her like you used to. That voice was poison, and it was mine. Still, life kept going, day by day. Ray started calling me kid, even though I was 34. I helped an old man fix his beat-up Chevy and he tipped me $20 and told me I reminded him of his grandson. I learned where the best pancakes in town were. I started drinking less, started sleeping through the night sometimes. And then one day I laughed. It wasn't much, just a chuckle, something Ray said about an idiot who brought in a Prius and asked for an oil change and a soul realignment. But it came out of me like something I hadn't heard in years. I froze afterward, like I'd betrayed my grief by smiling. But maybe grief isn't something you betray. Maybe it's just something you carry, like a scar or a tattoo from a time you don't talk about anymore. I still didn't know who I was, not really, but I was starting to figure out who I was. I wasn't a husband anymore. I wasn't a brother, but I was someone who could fix things, even if it was just cars for now. The notebook got fuller, the pages less angry. I started writing about the sunrises. The old woman who fed stray cats behind the diner. The way my hands looked now, stronger, darker, calloused from work, real. I wasn't healed, that word felt too clean, too final, but I was here. And for the first time in a long time, here felt like something. The past wasn't gone, it was just quiet for now. But I knew it'd come back. They always do. It was a Wednesday. I remember that because Ray always made chili on Wednesdays, the kind that could burn the grief out of your throat if you weren't careful. I just wiped the grease from my fingers and was sitting on the hood of a stalled pickup, letting the sun bake into my back when my phone buzzed. I hadn't changed the number. I told myself I would, but I never did. It was Emily. 3 words. Dad is gone. No punctuation, just those 3 words like a guillotine dropping mid-sentence. I stared at the screen for a long time, long enough that the sweat started to bead on my temples and the letters blurred together. I didn't respond, just sat there breathing through my nose, waiting for the nausea to pass. Ray saw me from the bay. He didn't ask anything, just gave me a nod. I nodded back. The drive home felt different than the one that brought me to Nevada. Back then I was fleeing something. This time I was returning to ruins. I passed places I hadn't seen in years, old diners, broken down motels, gas stations with the same flickering signs. Nothing had changed. Or maybe everything had and I was the one still stuck in that broken reel. The house looked smaller, it always does when you come back. The tree in the yard was dead now, the porch light was out, but I could hear voices inside, muffled, low, the kind of voices people use when they're saying things they don't want the dead to hear. I stepped inside and there she was, her, my ex-wife, wearing black like it belonged to her. Her eyes found mine and for a moment neither of us moved. I don't know what I expected, guilt, shame, anger, but all I got was distance. Like we were passengers passing in an airport, vaguely familiar, not worth the confrontation. And then Daniel, standing just behind her, a hand on her back like some twisted joke. His hair was thinner than I remembered, face more hollow. but the smirk hadn't aged a day. "Didn't think you'd come," he said. I didn't answer. Emily hugged me hard and didn't let go for a full minute. She whispered, "He left letters, one for you, one for them." Then she slipped a small envelope into my pocket, kissed my cheek, and walked away. I didn't open it then, couldn't. The room was closing in, thick with the scent of lilies and perfume and unspoken resentment. So I left, went out to the garage where Dad used to sit in that lawn chair with the rusted armrest, tinkering with old radios that never quite worked. I sat on the workbench, took a breath, and finally opened the letter. His handwriting looked like it had been shaken loose from his body. Letters wobbled and sank into the page like they'd been crying before me. "Uzan, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I didn't do more while I was alive. I saw what happened. I saw the betrayal, and I said nothing. That silence was my failure. You always thought I was proud of Daniel because he shined brighter, but the truth is I admired your stillness, your quiet strength. You were the one who showed up when no one was watching, the one who stayed. I want you to know something they don't. You were never the one who disappointed me. I just didn't say it enough. I hope this letter reaches the part of you that still aches. I love you, Dad." I read it 3 times, then again, and then I folded it back up and held it against my chest like it could fix something, like his words could undo years of silence, fill in all the places I'd gone hollow. I didn't cry, not in that moment, but something in me cracked, not violently, not loudly, just a soft shattering, like the last icicle falling from a roof in spring. That night Daniel came out to the garage. I was still sitting there. I heard the door creak open, the shuffle of his dress shoes on the concrete. "You got yours too?" he asked. I didn't answer. He pulled out his own letter. "He forgave me," he said, almost confused. Said I had a good heart, that I made mistakes, but he understood. He held something else in his hand, a photograph. "Dad said to give you this," he said. I didn't want it, but I took it. It was a picture of us, me, Daniel, and Dad, standing on a dock with fishing rods in hand. I must have been 12, Daniel maybe 10. Dad had his arm around both of us. We were smiling, all 3 of us. No idea how badly it would all fracture. "I didn't mean to ruin everything," Daniel said. His voice wasn't defensive, it was tired. "She and I, it just happened." "Yeah," I said, "like a car crash." He flinched a little, then said, "I thought you'd never come back." "I didn't come back for you," I said, "or her." I stared at the photo a long time. "You didn't just take her," I finally said. "You took my brother too." He didn't respond, just nodded slowly, like he was finally starting to understand the size of the thing he'd broken. We didn't hug, we didn't make peace. We just stood there in that garage, surrounded by Dad's old tools and the thick, unfixable silence between us. When he left, he didn't look back. I stayed a while longer, looked around at the dust-covered shelves. The rusted radio Dad never finished. I placed the letter next to it, let it rest there where his hands once worked. I didn't need to keep it, I knew what it said. Every word was etched in me now. I walked out into the night. It was cold, but the stars were out, clear, wide, uncaring. The kind of sky that doesn't ask questions, the kind that just watches. And I didn't stay for the will, or the luncheon, or the part where everyone pretends they were closer to the dead than they really were. I left the morning after the funeral, before the sun came up, before she could try to say anything, before Daniel could offer another apology with eyes that didn't match the words. I didn't need closure from them. I wasn't even sure that was a real thing anymore, closure. It sounded like a word people made up to tidy the messes they didn't want to carry. The letter was enough. I drove back to Nevada with the windows cracked, letting the cold air slap the sleep off my face. There was no music this time either, just the sound of tires chewing up the road, my own breath steady in my chest. I felt emptied out, but not broken, not like before. There's a difference between pain that crushes you and pain that teaches you how to carry it. The first kind makes you disappear. The second lets you stay, lets you keep showing up, even if all you can do is stand still and breathe. I moved out of the bait shop room, found a little house on the edge of town. One bedroom, chipped white paint, a porch that creaked when the wind hit it right. The landlord said the roof leaked in the spring. I said that was fine, leaks could be fixed. The first night there, I sat on the porch with a beer and watched the sun drop behind the desert like it was something sacred. The silence out there didn't hurt like it used to. It felt honest, like the land had seen everything and didn't expect anything from you. I started working more hours at the garage, took on more responsibility. Ray let me handle the front desk sometimes, talk to customers, manage the books. I still didn't talk much, but people seemed to like that about me. There was a woman who came in with a busted transmission and left me a box of muffins a week later. I didn't eat them, but I kept the note she left. Thanks for being kind. It was folded in my glove compartment for months. Eventually, I applied for a part-time job teaching auto shop at the local high school. I thought they'd laugh me out the door, some stranger with scars he didn't show and no teaching degree, but they were desperate. And I had grease under my nails and patience in my voice. Turns out kids listen when you don't talk at them like they're problems waiting to be solved. There was one kid, Kyle, who reminded me of Daniel before everything got bent. He had this bravado, this fire that kept him always a little too close to trouble. I watched him pick fights with other kids, break tools on purpose, test me, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't send him out. I just stood next to him one day while he dismantled an engine wrong for the third time in a row, and I said, "You don't have to wreck things to prove you're still here." He didn't say anything, but the next day he showed up early and started over. That was enough for me. I still wrote sometimes, late at night, just reflections, little vignettes, about the way engine oil smells when it's burning, the sound of laughter from the diner across the street, the way grief moves in circles like a tire slowly losing air. I didn't write about her anymore, or Daniel, or even Dad. They were still there in the architecture of my memory, but they weren't driving the story anymore. Sometimes, though, I'd find myself standing in the hardware store, staring too long at a box of nails or a stack of lumber, thinking I could build something, a table, a shelf, a life, not all at once, but maybe one board at a time. I didn't become a new man. I didn't fall in love again. There was no epiphany under the stars, no dramatic moment where I was finally free. But there was a morning when I woke up, made coffee, stepped outside, and realized the air didn't hurt to breathe anymore. That I hadn't thought about her in days. That the ache was quieter. That I had, in my own slow, stubborn way, survived. Not moved on, not forgotten, but survived. And maybe that was the whole point, not to outrun the past, not to erase it, but to carry it like a stone in your pocket, real heavy but no longer crushing. Some days I still catch myself glancing at the photo. The one Daniel gave me. I didn't burn it, didn't hide it. It lives in a drawer beside the radiator, folded soft at the corners. And when I look at it now, I don't see betrayal. I see three boys frozen in time, still believing things would never fall apart. There's something tender in that kind of blindness, something I've stopped resenting. The past is the past. And this small house, this quiet job, this calm that doesn't demand anything, this is mine. It's not much, but it's enough.